G'day guys, here with Jacob Skepis,
Carl DeFalco,
Josh Kakataki.
and we're going to discuss today the ketogenic diet. So we thought we'd do a roundtable discussion and we'll just go through a couple of topics pertaining to keto diets and whether they are indeed useful as a fat loss tool or for improving your performance. So first and foremost, what is keto, Carl?
So a ketogenic diet, true ketogenic diet is where people get confused with a high protein diet. So by definition, we want to have a high fat diet, roughly around 80% of your intake, protein roughly around 15%, and carbohydrates around 5%. So that for the average person, that probably works around 20 grams or under for carbohydrates. The thing is, to actually be in ketosis is we want blood ketones anywhere between 0.5 to 5 millimole. It's not to get confused with ketoacidosis, which is something more commonly seen in diabetic patients, where blood ketones actually increase around 15 millimole. So that's one thing to differentiate.
And Josh, what is the benefit of a keto diet? Why would somebody want to adopt a keto diet?
So there is certain contexts where you might want to adopt a keto diet. The reason being, as Carl touched on, it is pretty much changing the substrate, so the fuel source, from carbohydrates to fat. So you'll be burning 90 to 95% of fat for energy, as opposed to most people where they're burning glucose for energy most of the time, and some fat, and some protein, of course. So the benefit lies in, obviously, we have a lot of fat tissue stored in all places, and carbohydrates can only be stored roughly about 100 grams. So obviously the benefit lies in having a lot of storage there straight away for you to utilize. So it has its context where it, might be beneficial, so for endurance athletes maybe, or in a starvation state.
And it sounds pretty sexy on the surface, doesn't it?
Sexy.
Sure does.
Sounds sexy. Use fat for energy, don't use glucose. That sounds great if we want to get lean. But is it that simple? Do we just burn fat immediately and get leaner?
The thing with the diet is you have to go through a phase which is called keto adaptation. Generally it takes around 21 days. Symptoms where you probably feel quite foggy, have brain fog, lethargic, things like that. So it's more about like riding the storm, and then until you actually get into it, you'll have to get the keto sticks to actually know.
So what's pretty much happening in that keto, the adaptation phase, Carl?
I think you're the man to discuss it.
Yeah, so in that keto adaptation phase, pretty much what is happening is because you're so used to using glucose as the main substrate, as the main fuel source, it's going to take a little bit to adapt to using fats for fuel as your main fuel source. So it takes, as Carl said, anywhere from 10 to 21 days for that to happen.
And anyone who's been on a low carbohydrate diet before, and I mean a strict low carbohydrate diet, will notice that you feel lethargic, you feel the brain fog, your energy levels drop, you feel like rubbish. But it's only after 21 days when that substrate switches over and you actually start to feel better on that diet.
Yeah, so basically what's happening is you don't know how to use fats properly still because you're used to using carbohydrates. So you've cut out the carbohydrates and you're still not using fats. So there's just that phase of pretty much you feeling not too great for a little while.
And that begs the question, so if we're going to eliminate carbohydrates and increase our fat intake so drastically, is it necessary for body composition? Again, we'll give this some context. Is it necessary for body compositional improvements?
I would say generally if you're someone that responds well to a high carb diet, we've seen some bodybuilders where they can have their carbohydrate intake up to 400, 500 grams, still be cutting weight. It wouldn't be optimal, but for some people I've seen it working is when...
With a sloth-like metabolism? A good slow metabolism?
Other people are saying where it works well. I look at it and go, it's just another tool in the toolbox, but it's not the be on end all. It doesn't mean you have to go on keto to get lean.
And touching on that begs the question of, the premise whether or not a calorie is a calorie and the energy balance equation actually holds true. And from the scientific literature and through physics and thermodynamics, we know that when you eat less overall calories than your body's burning on a daily basis, you will lose weight. And we know that when protein is matched and when calories are matched, fat loss is equated regardless of carbohydrate and fat intake. That's where the literature is at the moment. So that in itself really undermines the entire premise of a ketogenic diet, don't you think, Josh?
Absolutely. So just coming back to what Jacob asked with how it regards to body composition. So there's two parts to body composition, muscle and fat. So we've so far just talked about, the fat loss. There's also the muscle gain or muscle retention is part of it. And to do that, you obviously need to train with resistance, i.e. weights. And, ketogenic diets or high-fat diets, completely cutting out carbohydrates, hasn't really been shown to be that good for muscle sparing or training at high intensities, which is needed
to maintain
your muscle and even build on more muscle. So that's the other part of body composition that this probably isn't that optimal for.
And do you agree with that, Carl?
Yeah, there's been some study where it's shown to have a leucine sparing effect.
Yeah, there has been some mixed data on that.
So, but yeah, to put yourself in prime condition for muscle growth.
And when we say about sparing leucine and so forth, the primary way that we spare our muscle is by maintaining our performance in the gym. Maintaining our overall volume, mechanical stress in the gym. And if your energy levels are so low because of the ratio of carbohydrates to fat, and your performance suffers, that'll inherently mean that you're at a greater risk of losing muscle. So it can have its drawbacks there. But in terms of body composition, we know that the evidence suggests that when protein and calories are matched, carbohydrate and fat intake is not really an issue. But the practical application of that, which is the final thing we'll talk about, is it feasible and is it easy to adhere to a ketogenic diet? Carl, you've done it before. Talk to us about your experience.
Yeah, anecdotally, I did it for my last year in December for a powerlifting meet to cut to 66.
How long did you do it?
I did it for 3 months.
3 months.
Where I struggled was in that last week, just dropping that extra 1.5 kilos, because usually that's when I'll implement going low carb to cut the extra weight. So, but I actually had my best performance to date that day. So, would I do it again? Maybe in the near future I'll do it again. But I'd more recommend it for an endurance athlete.
Yeah, as opposed to
probably tap into 40,000 calories versus.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the main takeaway there for practical application is for the lay person, i.e. everyone probably watching that is an endurance athlete.
Is an elite level power.
Yeah, doesn't compete at elite levels. It's not really that feasible because you are cutting out pretty much all sources of carbohydrates, which is most foods around these days. So it's just taking a lot away from your life and a really hard thing to try and implement.
Especially for sustainability.
Yes, absolutely.
For elite level bodybuilders, we know that a cyclical, low carbohydrate or very low carbohydrate diet is really beneficial. Obviously, having refeeds to have the metabolic benefits of increasing leptin levels, and obviously the psychological benefits that come with refeeds. But going keto for the most part, for most of you, really unnecessary. Would you agree, guys? Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And again, it does have more drawbacks than it does benefits. So guys, that's a wrap on the ketogenic diet. If you have any questions, feel free to hit us up below and we'll speak to you all next time. Thanks guys.